Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Well, hello, my pretties and your little dogs too. Whoa, wow, sorry about that. All the voices in my head, and I decided to listen to that one this morning. Hello, good morning, and welcome to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show, and it is Friday, Firearms Friday. Just another beautiful day here in paradise as we get ready to crack into one of my favorite topics, which, of course, is the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms, and this here, the United States of America. Good morning and welcome to it. It's man, such a good time, such a good day. We are ready to go. We're diving into it with lots of good discussions and talking points today, plus your phone calls. Yes, your phone calls this morning. We're ready to go. Yes, we want to talk with you. I'd like to hear what you have to say on all kinds of things and all different pieces and parts and everything. So jump on board and let's get going this morning. Phone number to call is 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. And I'm ready. It's Friday, man. This has just been a huckledybuck week, and I'm ready to slow it down and just to pontificate and talk about a few things and have some discussions with you. I hope you are all ready to go and are looking forward to it as much as I am. We're going to talk about guns and the 2A stuff and everything else right up until we get a chance to finish up the show with Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com, who will be with us in the final segment of the show today to talk about the entertainment and the movie reviews, the streams, a little bit of nonsense, a little bit of the lighter side. We're going to do a little bit of lighter side and kind of lighten things up going into the weekend. And I'm hoping you're going to stick around with us for that. Some of the stories we're going to be covering today includes a discussion about this new Colorado bill, which was introduced earlier this week in Colorado. Colorado taking a page from states like Hawaii and California, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, in creating sensitive spaces. Sensitive spaces. The Colorado already differs from those states because they had on their books already a shall issue provision for their concealed carry firearms, as opposed to those other states having a may issue, which of course was struck down by Bruin as unconstitutional. Their attempts was then to try and regulate the practical usage or carrying of concealed firearms by basically making a patchwork quilt of no-go zones where you just couldn't carry a gun. I'm sure. Oh yeah, hey, we'll give you one, but you just can't use it here, or here, or here, or here over here. Which of course is also facing scrutiny by many of the courts, with the Second Circuit Court of Appeals issuing a decision in December that rejects the state's false rulings on some of the places, and other federal courts taking the saying that it's going to be even harder, including the Ninth Circuit, which surprising. The Ninth Circuit putting an injunction in to stop the California law from actually going into effect. So we're going to talk about Colorado and some of the craziness that's going on over there. We're going to talk about what's happening in Virginia. Glenn Youngkin appears to be the hero we need, who has really put the boots to the Democratic anti-gun crowd there, and is now under fire for it. But hey, that's where it's at. We're going to talk about some of the big. Tom Knighton over at Bearing Arms has got this headline that I just love. Anti-gunners say the darndest things. We'll talk about that, and we'll also talk about a felon on parole who was shot after invading a home in New Mexico, and how this is getting to be a bigger occurrence than a more frequent occurrence, I guess I should say. But the big news that I really want to dive into here shortly is about Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I don't know how many of you have been following Tulsi's journey here from darling of the Democrats as a possible way to show that they are younger and hipper and everything else than the Republicans, to her disillusionment with that party and her movement towards a more conservative viewpoint. Now her name has been floated as a potential VP candidate for Donald Trump. She was also being floated as a potential VP candidate for Robert Kennedy Jr., but he's done himself no favors by announcing that he is that he now is named a nominee who is she's a super environmentalist, and that I don't think he did himself any favors here. I've been watching the RFK campaign and really enjoying some of his commentary and where he's going, and the fact that he could disrupt the election and has got some real possibilities of doing some things. His stance on the Second Amendment is not nearly as strong as I would like, and I'm a little concerned about that. But this pretty much, this pick for VP, if it sticks, is going to be, it's probably going to be a hard no for me, unfortunately, on this. But we'll talk about that. But Tulsi Gabbard was being floated as a potential VP pick for either RFK or Donald Trump. And I mean, I think that might be a good move. But since her track record in Congress was not great on gun issues, we have to ask: is this a true conversion? Is this a true epiphany? Has she really changed her thoughts and minds? This question has actually been coming up lately, and she was recently interviewed by Donald Trump Jr. on his podcast and asked this specific question because many of the people out there are worried that this is all talk the talk and not walk the walk. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning as well, and ask the question, do you trust Tulsi Gabbard's miraculous conversion? I mean, it wasn't like instantaneous. This has been about a 3 or 4 year process. But do you trust her miraculous conversion? Because I got to be honest with you, she is amazingly well-spoken. She is very thoughtful. I have watched her speak on many issues, and she really is got, and I'll be honest with you, I liked a lot of the things that she was saying when she was in the Democratic Party. And then once she split sheets with the Democratic Party and said, you guys, she basically walked away and said, you people are crazy. You're not upholding the values that I that I believe in, and she very publicly walked away. But she is, in my mind anyway, a pretty compelling candidate. But as always, I'm very worried about this, about a supposed conversion, especially when you've got a track record and not doing great. I mean, this is one of the reasons, quite honestly, why I don't trust Donald Trump, for a variety of reasons, but predominantly because he was a dyed-in-the-wool Democratic liberal supporter of gun control, supporter of the assault weapons ban, has written about it in as many books that he doesn't believe that people should have guns and everything else. Now, did he have a real true conversion, or was it politically expedient for him to espouse those things? Well, I think the proof is in the pudding in that, quite honestly, and that it was just politically expedient, and that his true colors showed after the Vegas shooting, where he basically talked about trying to institute red flag laws across the country. He did an administrative order to ban bump stocks, and then was quoted on camera as saying that, especially in regards to red flag laws and everything else, how they weren't working or they hadn't worked. He said, we just got to find a way to take the guns and we'll worry about due process later. That moment of candor should make you very hesitant. Now, again, as I said yesterday, well, but if you hammer Joe Biden, I'm like, sure, okay, great. If it's the two, I definitely would say Trump would be the one that I would want in there if you just gave me two choices. But the question is, are there three? Are there four choices? Should I be forced to choose the lesser of two evils? And I think that this thing with Gabbard, if it's true and her conversion is true, she may be a more stabilizing force. There's just a lot of questions with this. And so I want to ask you guys what your thoughts are on this, and if you've been following it, if you haven't been following. And we're going to play some audio. I've got her response on the I think the podcast is called Triggered. It's the Donald J. Trump Jr. podcast, and he asked her the question about that. We've got some audio from her directly to answer it and get it in her own words. But I'll be honest, I think she is I'm impressed by her as a candidate or potential candidate, and I've been impressed by her thoughtful journey, her thoughtful metamorphosis from darling of the liberal crowd to an independent, and now potentially maybe even to a Republican VP candidate, if all the chatter is to be believed. So it's going to be a good discussion. I think it's going to be a good thing. So I want to get your take on some of this. Now, so I know some of you are immediately just going to hate her because she was once a Democrat. But again, I think you may have to take into account, where she's from, where she was raised, and the fact that she has done, as Brian says in the chat room, she has done a lot of soul searching. And I think she's articulated that journey fairly well. I think she's articulated how those things have changed. But we'll see where it goes from there. And we'll have that conversation up next as we continue. All right, phone line is open, 907 433-3150, 907-433-3150. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. It is Firearms Friday, TGIFF, my friends, or TGIFFF, whichever ones you do. All right, we'll continue with more in just a moment. Back right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. it should be a good discussion here. I got to go back here because Mike in the chat room keeps, and I don't know why sometimes stuff like this bugs me, but this is like the third or fourth day in a row where he keeps saying that I'm late and that the show is starting late and why are you late all the time and should I buy you a new clock or whatever. But let me just say, Mike, you realize the show starts every morning within just a couple seconds of each other at exactly the same time, 6:06 a.m. That's mandated not by what I do, but that's mandated by the atomic clock. I literally am connected to the radio stations, and they are all their timing is all set by the Greenwich Mean Time, whatever. 6:06 a.m. is when the show starts. I know we say 6 to 8 a.m., but it's you got the commercials and the news and everything else. 6:06 a.m. It always starts within a second or two of that. So you need to either adjust your clock or adjust your expectations, because the show will not start before 6:06 a.m. I'm just throwing that out there. And you'll notice that hour 2 starts at 7:06 a.m. Because why? News, commercials, everything else. Anyway, so I hope that answers your question, Mike. I hope it answers your question. I guess it irritates me when people accuse me of being late when I'm obviously not, but that's just, take the free clock and ignore him. Says Brian, take the free clock. And yeah, sure. Buy me a new clock, Mike. You can send it right to my address. It'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, it's all, the whole thing is when it goes click, I push the button. That's how it works. When it clicks over to 6:00 a.m., I push the button. That's how it works. 6:06 a.m., 6 minutes after, bam, we're done. And a little bit closer to home, this weather is going to suck for a while. Man, I'm glad I'm not driving in today. Because dang it, Bobby. 28 degrees here at the house right now. And get that snow and we got the, everything else. It was, and the way people are driving the last few days, man, I'm like, are you trying to rush yourself to your death? Come on. All right. Brian says that Tulsi's change seems to have stemmed from the trans debate and the war on women. It challenged a lot of what she believed in the political arena she was siding with. And I have seen that commentary, and I would agree that is definitely a big part of what's going on. So we will actually have some commentary on that as well. Rick says, isn't she military? Yes. Whoops. She is military, former military. She was a Marine, right? Tulsi Gabbard, military. I think she was, she's part of the Hawaii National Guard. She was an MP. She was U.S. Army. She was not a Marine. She was a soldier, not a Marine. Okay. Anyway, so there you go. But there we go. That's this thing. Never, Terry. Oh, Terry. Never again are we going to wait for snow after Halloween. Never say never. Gordon says, welcome to Alaska. I'm not complaining about the weather. I'm just saying I'm glad I'm not out there driving in it, and could people please, maybe take their foot off the gas just because they believe it's dry doesn't mean that it is dry, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? All right. Here we go. Getting ready to jump into it. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Yeah, well, that was it. Let's do it. Here we go.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Assault penguins. I mean, they're a thing. They're a thing. I just like to see you trapped in a cubicle with a penguin, a wild penguin, see how you feel about it. Yeah, I mean, dang, assault penguins, not a good look for a Friday by any strange stretch of the imagination. Some good comments here in the chat room this morning in regards to the whole Tulsi Gabbard thing. A lot of good questions. Some people are just like, no. Kyle over on YouTube is saying, would you trust it? No. I'm assuming he means no, he would not trust Tulsi Gabbard in that thing. Brian, as I mentioned earlier, said Tulsi's done a lot of soul searching as well. And even Donna makes the point that both Trump and Reagan were once Democrats. Now, I mean, I've already expressed my reservations about the conversion of Trump. I think it's more for political expediency than anything else. But she's right. Ronald Reagan was once a Democrat and now held up as one of the luminaries in the conservative movement. So it's, it's a question. So again, we're coming back to that discussion about Tulsi Gabbard and what does she really believe? What does she really believe? Is this conversion to a more conservative stance more real, specifically in regards to her voting record when she was in the Congress? Because she voted for pretty much every piece of anti-gun legislation there was while she was in Congress. And so, there's a lot of questions there. And she has been, and during over the last 4 years or so, she has been not only talking the talk, but she's been out there. She's been, intermingling with the right people, so to speak. She's been part of she just participated in the tactical games with her husband. She's out there shooting thereby, it looks real good. Let's just put it that way. But again, you don't want to be swayed by a pretty face and a silver tongue. Is it real? And I'm going to play the audio here, and we're going to get the words straight from her mouth, and then you can decide, and you can tell me whether you think she is committed or not. And then I'll tell you what I think about that conversion, because again, it really makes me nervous. Right. It really makes me nervous when I see that as well. But first, I want to go to the telephones to see what you guys have to say. 907-433-3150 over here. And we'll take some calls and see what you have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Whoops. Let me push the button. I'm sorry, caller.
Hello.
Let me try. Hello. Good morning.
Oh, yes. Michael, I have a magazine article from AMAC magazine, and it's called The Crack Up, High-Profile Liberals Who Have Broken with the Democratic Party. And Tulsi Gabbard, very wise journalist, Wall Street Journal and Times, Elon Musk, Michael Schellenberger, and Senator Kirsten Sinema. And at the very end, it said the Ronald Reagan quote, "I didn't leave the Democratic Party Party left me." But what I've listened to, I'm searching this article for that. The bottom line was Kirsten Sinema and Tulsi Gabbard vote with the Democrats on everything, even though they've made a conversion. They still vote with the Democrats, and I don't know if that was on the news. I can't find it in this article. Thanks, Michael.
Well, thank you very much. Tulsi Gabbard's no longer in Congress, so I don't know what she's voting on, but she maybe Sinema is. but Tulsi Gabbard is out of Congress now. She's still, again, when she ran for VP, she ran originally as a Democrat, but I think that was part of the process of her breaking away. But I'll take a look at that. Thank you for the heads up. I'll see if I can find that article and we can talk about it more as we go through. Let's go over here to the next call. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yes, Michael, this is Ron in North Pole.
Good morning, Ron. How are you this morning? Step away from your radio if you would. You're a little close to the radio. I can hear it in the background.
Okay, let me kill there. Now we're straight. Two things I'll say about Gabbard. After viewing a video here in the fairly recent past, she does know how to run a black rifle.
She does, in fact, know how to run a black rifle. I saw some video of her in the tactical games, and the woman can shoot. She does a good job at that. And like I said, she's talking a good talk. But would she walk the walk if given the reins of power? Would she be moving in that direction? Or is it just, again, expediency? And I think people are going to have to make their own minds up. But it's her talk and what she's been doing is fairly convincing at this point.
Well, in a second and probably not very meaningful way, I would also suggest that if you dipped your finger in a glass of water and touched her anywhere, you'd get seen.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know exactly what that means, but I feel personally attacked by that.
And I also found out that the worry streak is real.
The worry streak, you're talking about the gray streak in her hair? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I've met a few people who've had
right.
that. Yeah, I've met a few people in my life who've had that. And it's striking, but it is the real deal. Some people, it's just like, wow. Like, and I had one friend that showed up.
All right, I'll cut you loose. Have a great day.
I have one more question for you, Ron, before you go. Did you ever get more information? What was the name of that company? CNN? Oh, he left. There was a company that he was talking about last week that was no longer going to be producing or selling Holosun sites. And he said they were going to be doing their own. And I wanted to know if he'd gotten any more information on that, because I was looking at a Holosun site the other day and I was trying to see if there's a newer version or if this company that he's talking about has got an equitable version on that for a new optic for my rifle. And anyway, if Ron's listening, he can call back later and tell us more about that. But I want to know. Anyway, so Tulsi Gabbard is who we're talking about right now. And so again, the question is it a real conversion or is it not? So again, she was on Donald J. Trump Jr.'s podcast. And she was asked this question, because he said his viewers and his commenters in his chat room were going crazy. And in fact, I think it was, it wasn't Ben-Hur. It was, another video that I watched. I've watched several videos over the last couple of days getting prepared for this. And he said the same thing, that his viewership was very concerned about this very same thing, that she, again, historically had been a Democrat and that had been anti-gun, had voted anti-gun. And what was her position on it? Trump asked the same question and said, what do you say to people who say that exactly? And her response, I thought, was pretty good. Now, this is a long one, and I'm probably going to be stopping it in the middle to talk about it. But this is Tulsi Gabbard responding to questions about whether her conversion to being a Second Amendment advocate is real, and to explain her votes in Congress during her time in Congress, why she voted the way she did, and where she's at today. This is Tulsi Gabbard.
Now, I grew up here in Hawaii, where, as you probably know, it's one of the most restrictive gun ownership states in the country. I certainly didn't grow up in any kind of gun culture or things like some of my friends and your friends, or they grew up around guns ever since they were kids. I probably shot a pistol with my dad a couple of times and didn't touch a rifle until I joined the military. And even then, for those of you who may be watching who served in the military, you know how restrictive the military is with firearms for safety reasons. You sign your rifle out, you go to the range, you qualify, or you do your training event. Every single bullet is accounted for. Every single rifle is carefully accounted for. And of course, it's locked up at the end of the day.
Now, I will say that this is, again, justification. Anytime I see somebody who's a candidate that says, well, they're in the military, so of course they're pro-gun. But you have to remember that the military is very regimented and regulated when it comes to firearms. Like she said, I thought this was a good point that she made, because you'll see candidates who are like, oh, I'm pro-gun, and then people are blown away when somebody who is a ex-Army officer or who is a former Marine comes in and basically says, I of course I'm for that, but we've got to have this common sense gun control. And you're like, but you were in the you understand the important. No, see, again, it's a regimented, you check it out, you account for every round, you check it back in, it's locked up. The quartermaster or the master at arms has it. I mean, it's a whole thing. So I thought that was a good point to make, that her exposure to that was still, even though she was in the military, very regimented, very structured. And it would make sense that somebody would be like, oh, well, everybody should be that way. We should lock up everybody's guns under lock and key, and they should have to come check it out. I could see how that mindset would be baked in there, especially after coming from Hawaii, where, again, notoriously anti-gun, and then going into the military. Just because she was in the military doesn't make her necessarily more gun-friendly. She continues.
So I've always held the position that I support the Second Amendment and understood our intrinsic right as humans to defend ourselves and to defend our loved ones. I got to tell you, as time went on, and I spent a lot of time, especially over my campaign for president and the years since, with a lot of folks in New Hampshire and Iowa and different parts of the country who had a very different experience than I did growing up. And they raised a lot of concerns around some of the things that throughout my time in Congress had all been coined as, well, this is common sense gun safety laws. This is well-intentioned in order to try to make sure that our communities are safe.
Again, going back to say, I mean, at least she admits she got around other people and maybe actually listened to them, which would be interesting. And then she, again, talking about the swamp of getting in there and saying, well, this is just common sense. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad. Did she just go along with the crowd? Was she convinced by those arguments? Because it's just common sense and her experience? Because all that congressional stuff was all before she became president and went out and met all these people in these various states and did everything else. I can see that. But again, it's just common sense, right? Maybe her mind got changed. Yeah.
That's a pretty compelling argument. But as with many things in Washington, as you know well, once you start peeling back the surface, you can understand that for a lot of folks who are using those words, they don't have good intentions at all. Their real objective is to try to get rid of the Second Amendment and take away our right to own firearms and our right to defend ourselves. And even more pointedly, especially with where we are now and where the Biden-Harris administration has taken us, our founders intended the Second Amendment to be a check on the abuse of power by a tyrannical government.
Whoa. I mean, that's some crazy talk there, right? I mean, most politicians are not talking about that kind of stuff. She calls it out and says, again, people with bad intention utilizing the verbiage and the language to conflate, to confuse, and to convince people that this is just common sense. But then to go on and talk about the actual basis of the Second Amendment, which was to hold the government in check. That was one of the primary reasons behind the Second Amendment. It wasn't about just hunting. It wasn't about just even personal protection. It was about the implicit threat against the government to hold them in check. And she says that, which I honestly found refreshing.
And when you look back at the things that started to roll out throughout COVID, when you look at what the Biden-Harris administration has done, where they're using the power of our law enforcement, the county, state, and federal level in different ways, using the power of the Department of Justice, the power of the national security state against American citizens. You had that clip of Representative Adam Schiff there in your opening, one of the biggest offenders of this, where they have no issue using the secret FISA court to surveil Americans illegally without a warrant. They have no issue sicking the FBI or other law enforcement agencies against American citizens who've done nothing wrong other than exercise their right to free speech. So
it's again going back to the whole people railing against the school board, and now the FBI is involved. People who go to a protest or go to the, even people who just happen to be in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Some people who are actually not even at the Capitol building, but the FBI is peeling into their lives. I mean, she's not wrong.
Over time, my increased understanding, my being able to have some really great and honest conversations with Americans who cherish our freedom, who cherish the Second Amendment, helped me better understand what it really meant. My husband and I are gun owners and recently competed in the tactical games for the first time. I appreciate and respect every American's right to own a gun or not to own a gun.
So that was, and she's actually spoken to this 2 or 3 times. This was the most concise instance of it, which is why I pulled this audio, because all the other ones were much longer. But she makes some compelling arguments for the conversion. And I've got to say that it sounds good. I would mark myself at this point as cautiously optimistic as to maybe there has been a true conversion here. Again, the fact that she listened to alternate points of views and admitted that those points of views swayed her to look at what's going on in the government and see the troubling things that have happened, especially with government overreach. She mentioned the FISA courts and the unconstitutional wiretapping and observation and surveillance of American citizens, which has been a tremendous problem. Thousands of wiretaps authorized by the FISA court with no real back. The Inspector General is saying the FBI has been abusing their privilege in that thing for years, and yet nobody does anything. There's a lot to unpack here, and I really think that, like I said, what I'm hearing is making me cautiously optimistic at this point. So we'll see where this goes. I've got one line on hold. What do you think? When you hear this, are you encouraged, or is it just smoke and mirrors? Is it just smoke and mirrors to you? She'll say anything to get nominated, elected, or whatever. What are your thoughts? 907-433-3150, The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break. I do have one line on hold, so we're going to talk to them here in just a second. Caller, just hold the line for a minute for me. Let me get your name, actually. Let me figure out who this is. Good morning. Who is this? Where are you calling from?
Morning, Michael. This is Larry from North Pole, Fairbanks area.
Okay, Larry. Good to hear from you, my friend. Hold the line for just a second, and I will be right back to you. You'll be first up when we return from the commercial breaks. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to hear this. Let's see. Let me go back up here. Tulsi, my dad says, Tulsi is a lieutenant colonel, battalion commander in the Hawaii National Guard. She has a great interview with Tucker Carlson 2 days ago. She's really been making the rounds lately. I've been seeing a lot of her lately. Jeannie says she can soul search all she wants. She's going to need more time to prove herself other than a rhino, to prove herself to be anything other than a rhino. So yeah, there you go. Rick says, I don't get it that if you serve in the military and you are defending the Constitution, how can you be against the Second Amendment? Every politician in office takes an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, Rick. How can they do that, defend the Constitution, and yet still call for its abolishment or its removal? I mean, it's interesting. Brian points out that she has also had some cool conversations with Matt Kibbe of Free the People, friend of the show, great libertarian thinker. He's got a great podcast. If you haven't watched that, there you go there and do that. Jeannie follows up with a previous comment that says, I like Tulsi. I respect her service, but I'm pensive about her politics. So yeah, I was right. I was right. She learned to shoot in the military, says Kyle. Yep, exactly. The military. Okay. Case in point. A local ex-Navy SF guy, Special Forces guy, who writes as Stone Kettle, is very pro-gun control and a hardcore lefty. Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around that. How does that even work? How does that even work? Okay. Donald say I could truly identify as learning as I aged and explored the world, met different people. So she can change her mind, but Trump can't. Well, again, I was the same way with Trump. I was very worried about his supposed conversion, and then his actions later on proved to be mostly true. Now, you did make one point earlier on, Jason, which I didn't get to, which I thought was a good point, which was that Trump had saved the Second Amendment with his Supreme Court picks. And I will agree with that. I will agree his Supreme Court picks have done a lot to bolster and protect the Second Amendment. Unfortunately, his own personal actions and speech and the things that he said really makes me concerned about things. Again, the whole due process, we'll take the guns, we'll worry about due process later. His executive actions on the bump stocks, which was not only unconstitutional, but unconscionable. Because again, there had been multiple letters of determination out there. People had built their whole businesses around something like that. And then to just arbitrarily, pencil whip it and say, now it's all illegal. That should have been, I don't care about bump stocks. I've never bought a bump stock. I've seen them. I can't even remember if I've actually ever used one. But again, to arbitrarily just change it because somebody did something bad with one is, again, it's ridiculous. And it just shows that he was waffling with whatever way the winds were blowing at the time. That's what worries me. So yes, she can she change her mind, but Trump can't? They both can change their mind, but is it a true, that my question becomes and remains, is it a true conversion? That's my hope, Brian says, remember that she was a representative and as such was obligated to represent her constituents, with sometimes mandates putting her personal beliefs aside. I don't know if I agree with that, Brian, because I believe that if you have a stated purpose or a stated stance or you have personal principles that you've espoused to the voters and they voted for you and you're going to vote your conscience, they know that in some ways they voted for you, sometimes for things that you'll disagree with. So I don't know if I agree with that, but again, I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again, I'm sure, probably sometime in the next hour. All right, we're going to continue on. Larry is on hold. We're going to talk with Larry on the other side. Let's jump into it. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
Somewhat funny? Man, I would... Wait, did he just call me? Oh. All right, welcome back to the program. It is Firearms Friday. We're taking phone calls this morning. We're talking about Tulsi Gabbard and more. 907-433-3150. Larry from up in Fairbanks is on the phone. Larry, what's on your mind today, sir?
Well, I kind of follow along your reasoning there on the Trump as well as the young lady, but time will tell. Like you said earlier, we got to pick the lesser of the two evils, and I don't know about that Kennedy fella. I'm not impressed with his Second Amendment.
He definitely he definitely has a weaker Second Amendment stance than I would like to see. That's for sure. He said he wouldn't push anything, but if they did put an assault weapons ban on his desk, he would sign it. I mean, that's a hard no for me, unfortunately. He has softened his stance as well, but again, it's problematic. I mean, so how many choices are we left with, right? I mean, we've still got all the bad choices. Which is the least worst choice we have available?
Yep. One of the other things I was going to mention, we got a couple of gun shows coming up here. Yours is on the 20th and 21st.
Yep, there's at the outdoor
Carlson Center.
Yeah, outdoor show at the Carlson Center is going to be going on. Yep,
3 weeks.
About 3.5 weeks. Yep.
Are you there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here, Larry. You're right. About 3.5 weeks. About 3.5 weeks.
Well, before the weekend before yours is a TVSA gun show, and of course I've been a member of the TVSA for a long time. I've been past president of the organization, so I try to give them a boost whenever I can. And but their gun show is going to be at their building, which is catty corner across the street from the Fred Meyer West.
Okay.
And that'll be Saturday and Sunday, the 13th and 14th.
Okay. All right.
And yours is the 20th and 21st.
Yep. Week later. All right. Well, thank you, Larry, for the heads up, and thank you for your thoughts on this. I appreciate you calling in and be a part of it today. Thank you. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks, Larry.
And
oops, I just hung up on Larry. He was going to say something else, but I just hung up on him. Sorry, Larry. I didn't mean to do that. All right. So again, we've heard the commentary. We've heard the words from her own mouth. What do you say? What are your thoughts? Are you convinced? Are you cautiously optimistic? I think I'm going to mark myself in the cautiously optimistic column, because this has not been an overnight thing, like it has for some people. It's been a slow process. It's been happening over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. And I'm cautious. Part of it is that she's just so well-spoken. If you've heard her speak, and she articulates her arguments and her commentary very well. And she doesn't get ruffled or rattled, and she doesn't say, or hasn't in the stuff that I've seen in the last few years. She doesn't just say ridiculous things like some politicians, talk empty talking points, I guess. She always seems to have some kind of backing, for what she's talking about, some thoughts that she underpins it with the thoughts of why she did something the way she did. And so it's a very interesting thing. Jason just says she wonder if she would do an interview with me. Boy, I would love to do an interview with her. I really would. I would love to. I'd love to bring her on a Firearms Friday. That would be a fantastic thing. Yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. I think that would be fantastic. But we'll see. I mean, come on, this is a little podunk. This is a little podunk radio show that broadcasts on the state of Alaska, which really doesn't make a hill of beans difference in presidential politics to begin with. So would she do it? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, maybe. I suppose I could start reaching out to her website and seeing what's going on. I just tend not to do that because usually it's more trouble than it's worth. But Anyway, so I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Do you think that there is a true conversion going on here? And what would you think of her as a vice presidential rather, candidate if she did get the nod? Because there's a lot of rumors going around, right? There's a lot of talk about, she was being whispered as a potential running mate for for Trump. Was whispered up until just earlier this week as a potential running mate for RFK Jr. I mean, what do you think? And I think she would have been good for both campaigns, quite honestly. Either one would have been a good choice to pick her because, again, she reaches for RFK. She brings more of a centrist position because he's a little bit to the left of center. Well, on some issues, he's very much to the left of center, but for the majority of the issues, he's a little bit left of center. And Trump is, again, kind of is to the right. This would have helped bring some of those centrists maybe to him, and maybe some of the people who, who are disillusioned with him or who don't like his bombacity or whatever. Maybe she could be that balancing force. But I would like that. It would be a powerful thing if it did happen one way or the other. Because if it turns out that the conversion is true and all the words that she's been saying for the last 3 or 4 years are true, and she really believes it, she would make a pretty dynamite presidential candidate in the years to come. So it's interesting. Richard says, I'd take her over Kamala. My God, my dog at my feet, I would take over Kamala at this point. It's just one of those things. So we'll see what happens. All right. We're coming up to the top of the hour. We're about ready to pull the plug for this hour. We got some other stories to go through. You guys have been awful quiet about whether or not, people in the chat room have been talking about it. Maybe we'll take a poll during the break and see where people stand on it. But I'd love to hear what you have to say on this or any other firearms topic today. 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150. It is Firearms Friday. Your calls reign supreme. Give us a shout. Hour 2 is coming up. We got Willie Waffle at the end of the show, plus some other great firearm stories from around the country. We'll return with more in just a moment. Tawny says that Tulsi has partnered with the ACLJ on many issues. Been listening to her for a while. Yeah, like I said, this has not been an overnight thing. I think the thing with Trump, what was so surprising with the thing with Trump when he announced for his presidency was that there was no preamble. It was just like he did. My producer, my former producer, one of my best friends, Brendan Berger, and I had this conversation because we were covering this live the day that he announced his presidency. He was on the air. We were on the air. We were playing clips of it. We were, pulling the live audio in and everything. And honestly, we were laughing because our thought was that this was a political stunt that went horribly awry. That he didn't really he didn't expect to get the nomination. And that he ended up in it. But the thing that got me was that this was just this sudden conversion. All of a sudden, the guy who's written many times about many things in a more liberal viewpoint, including guns, and then just overnight was like, now I'm running for the Republican nomination for president. And you're like, what? They got no track record on. Her conversion, on the other hand, has taken place, or apparent conversion, I guess I should say, to be more, even-handed about it, has taken place over the course of several years, especially with her divorcing the Democratic Party and everything else. It's interesting. It's interesting. Is any one person going to save us and save this country? No. I mean, the machinery is in place. The impetus of this beast is too great, I think, for any one person to make a change. There'd have to be some fundamental, monumental thing would have to happen for that to do anyway. Tulsi is a politician, so it's always good to remain skeptical in some degree, but let's wait and see going forward. We all change our minds and opinions, says Richard. It's true. It's true. We can't, we can't, and everybody should be allowed to change their minds. Everybody's political views or belief systems change over time as new information and new evidence is presented and everything else, Well, let me think about it. Biden and Kamala or Trump and Gabbard? I mean, yeah, it definitely has a better ring to it than the other, doesn't it? For sure. Okay. Let's see. I just had one line pop up on hold. We'll get to them here in just a second. I'm just scrolling backwards here to see. Scrolling. Brian says, is it her road to Damascus moment? Is it Tulsi Gabbard's road to Damascus moment, the conversion? And, I mean, it's a fair point. Has she gone through the wilderness? Has she seen with her own eyes the problems that the laws and other things have created? Maybe, could be. Mike makes the comment that veterans have been under strict red flag laws for years. Now they're coming to other citizens. Yeah. I mean, again, not a fan of any of that for sure. 100%. All right, let's go over to the phone lines and get this caller's name and where they're calling from. And then we will kick off hour 2 with their phone call. Let's go over there right now. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Brian calling you from the Hook.
Hello, my friend. You hold the line, sir, and be ungovernable while we wait for the top of the hour. Just drink that black coffee. He said earlier he was having black as his soul on a moonless night, I think was the quote, or maybe that's something I made up. He's enjoying some coffee this morning. Oh, man. Jeffrey made a comment earlier that I was going to chuckle at, but it might be true. Jeffrey said, ammo, the next currency. How many 22 shells for a pound of bacon? I got to say, if you're not putting away a little ammo every month just because, I mean, that stuff is, I mean, you can invest in gold and silver, but the other precious metal at this point is brass and lead, because that stuff is definitely not going down in price. Definitely not going down in price. That's an investment that you could always sell it down the road. If you got some, put it up for sale on, Craigslist or whatever. I mean, it will hold its value. Let's just put it that way. You don't have to worry about it holding its value. It'll be fantastic. Don't mute me, bro. Don't mute me, bro, says Brian. Can't eat gold or silver. Well, no, you can't eat gold or silver. You can't eat brass or lead either. You can eat beans and rice and canned goods and everything else. I'm not saying don't hear what I'm not saying, Mike. I'm not saying don't buy food. I'm just saying if you are not buying a little bit of ammo every month, maybe a box or two every month, and I mean, even if it's just 22 would be, worth a lot in the long run. I mean, yeah, it is what it is. You can shoot some food with it. You are true. You're 100% true there. You can shoot some food with the brass and lead. The gold and silver doesn't do you a whole lot, but that brass and lead can do it. All right. Time to jump in. Let's get it going on. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show. Every Friday, we take a couple hours out of your day and dive down into the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, that enumerated right that is in all of God's creatures to defend themselves against any enemies, foreign or domestic. And we talk about all the different pieces of it. In hour one, we discussed Tulsi Gabbard, who has been named by many talking heads as a potential vice presidential nominee for Trump, and was for RFK Jr. up until this week when he announced his choice, which was a weird choice, I'll be honest with you, but it is what it is. And the question that I posed in hour one was, is Tulsi Gabbard, has she made a change? Because she jumped away from the Democratic Party. She's become, her language and all of her discussions and talks have become more and more conservative. She has become a very vocal supporter of the Second Amendment and appears to be exercising her Second Amendment rights and doing things, but that flies in contrary to what happened while she was in Congress, because she voted for many pieces of gun control while she was in Congress. She has answered some of those questions or attempted to answer it, and my question to the listeners was, are you convinced? Is she forgiven for her behavior before? Is this conversion true and real? Because we've seen other politicians waffle and whiffle and make changes and then shown their true colors later on. Donald Trump is one that I'm thinking of right now. Taking your calls on this, 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. Brian from the Fish Hook out in Wasilla is with us right now. Let's see what he has to say. Good morning, Brian. What is on your mind, my friend?
Oh, so much on my mind this morning. Three pots of coffee will do that to you. I guess, yes, to answer your question that you began this whole hour with is yes, I am convinced that she has had her road to Damascus moment. As you well know, I'm a big fan of Matt Kibbe. And one of the things that Matt is very big on is carrying on a dialogue, and he's willing to carry a dialogue on with anybody. He's convincing people convincing him, and part of it is just an outreach to convince people. If you think that any politician is going to solve the morass that we're in right now, you are a fool. It only plays into the continuing narrative of Team Red versus Team Blue versus Team Gold. It has to be one-to-one. It has to be people. Putting Tulsi Gabbard in the political class again ends up meaning that she has to cage your responses. She has to be a little bit more political, a lot more political, just because that's the way the game is played.
Right.
And I would much rather see her carrying on a sincere dialogue with people, persuading people, as opposed to being stuck in politics again and effectively muted, especially as a vice president.
Right. Yeah. And she would be as a vice president. Their role is very limited, and their their ability to express their own personal beliefs or thoughts on policies and things like that is pretty much removed. So you are right in that. And of course, Matt Kibbe, Brian was just talking about Matt Kibbe of Free the People, the author of the book Don't Hurt People and Don't Take Their Stuff, has got a tremendous long form podcast that he does. And I enjoy that. And I'll be honest with you, she really shines in the long form podcast because her answers are, even when she was a Democrat, I liked to listen to her because her answers were always thought-provoking, and there was always some rational basis behind it. It wasn't just, again, talking points. It was, she had a reasoned outlook, and she would lay out her reasons for the things that she was doing. I think that's what really always caught my attention to begin with, was that she was very well-spoken, especially in that long form. Brian?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think that that's why I'm saying the dialogue as opposed to the sound bites.
Yeah, I think so. So you would say that if she was given or offered the nod for VP, you would say, would your advice, if you were her political advisor, would it be to not take it and just stay in the public eye and be the voice on the outside? Or would you think that she should take that to try to attempt change from inside the swamp?
I say that if she were to be dumb enough to align herself with Trump, that would end up tainting in many people's mind her message. You are Trump's VP, they're icky, orange man, bad. I think the same would happen if she went with Biden or Kennedy. So my advice to her, stay out, work on the outside. Let's fix this at the grassroots level and stop looking to the political class to fix this crap. Can I say crap on the radio?
You can, and you did, and you did. It's all fine. I agree. I think I think that as much as I would like to see her be a counterbalance for some of the nonsense that I'm sure Trump would bring to the table, and as much as I think she would offer some more moderate or more centrist legitimacy for RFK, I think she can do more work outside of the political spectrum, and do it well. Do it well. And I hope that her conversion down this road continues in the future, for sure. So, all right. Well, Brian, thank you so much. Brian.
All right, man, I'm gonna let you go because I'm starting to hear the callers now, so I got to back off the caffeine.
Yeah, exactly. I'm starting to hear the voices. Anyway, appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you being a member of the Common Sense Corps. Thank you for being part of it today. I appreciate it. Brian out in the fish hook again joined us. One of the original members, quite honestly, of the Common Sense Corps. I think he was one of the first 5 members of the Common Sense Corps, which is our Cool Kids Club. If you haven't checked it out, go over to MichaelDukeShow.com and click on Join the Corps. You can go find it there. All right, let's go back over to the phones and see what else some folks have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Morning, Michael. It's Fred in Rhode Island. How you been?
Hey, Fred. What's going on with you, my friend? What's happening out there in beautiful, sunny RI?
Well, I got two points to bring up today. First one with Gifford. I think she is part of an emerging class of the former Democratic Party, is from her standpoint. I think because the Democratic Party is such a lockstep, do as we say or we will kill you, we will destroy you, we will turn your political career into a pile of dust type of an attitude that they do have. I can see that at the local level. From the highest level of government to the lowest level of government, the Democratic Party is all the same. They're, like I say, they're a very hardcore, do as we say or else type party. And they give them no leeway. And I think she just had enough. I think she sees the handwriting on the wall, which was probably her past track record and her voting record on the Second Amendment and gun rights and gun banning and all that. You go along with it or we will destroy you, politically. And I think she just said, you know what? I've had enough of this crap and I'm getting out of it. And I think I would call her a fresh breath of air to the Democratic Party.
Right.
Get out of
So
it.
you think
Go
her
to a third party or just turn your
Yeah.
back on these nut jobs and walk away.
So
Because in the end, they're going to cut their own throats. They're going to hang themselves on
Right.
their own rope.
So you
Being the
think that
fools
her
they are.
conversion, you
And
think
they,
that
you know,
her
their whole background is lie, cheat, steal on everything that they do.
Right.
And if they can't do it that way, they realistically have no position to accomplish anything except lie, cheat, and steal.
Right. So you're saying that her conversion in your mind is legitimate. You think it is a legitimate conversion. She's come around.
I would say so. I mean, why would she walk away from an entire party that's willing to back her with every red cent they have, if she goes along with the nonsense? I think she's got enough morality to say, "To hell with you. I'm not. I don't want to be part of this.
Okay.
I'm washing my hands of this
Okay.
and walking away."
What's your second point, Fred?
Second point is the latest thing on the second attack on the Second Amendment that hasn't been said about it, but it has been brought up. Is what they're doing is the whole thing with the First Amendment part of the Second Amendment is, they're trying to stifle, the whole thing with the gun advertising, and not only gun advertising, but they got this new thing out now where they're going after, the anti-militia laws that they're trying to come up with. People doing training. Well, it even includes legitimate training. They're trying to stifle a legitimate firearms training. You want to buy a gun, you don't know anything about firearms, you want to go to a class. Those are going to be those they want to deem as part of the militia movement, and training will not be allowed under that. And, that was brought up the other day. And I got news for you. You talk about riding off the cliff. That's about
Right.
as far off the cliff as you can get.
Well, that's been one of the things that they've been most worried about, is that the rise in training in Americans, private training in this country over the last 10 years has really, there's been lots of different organizations and businesses, professionals in the business who are coming out and starting to train people. And a lot more citizens are not only arming themselves, but they're getting not just the proper safety training, but in a lot of cases, they're getting active shooter training, combat pistol and rifle training, and things like that. And I definitely think that kind of stuff makes the politicians nervous. That's why they put this militia language into these bills where they want to, stop training on this kind of stuff. But to that, I would say, good luck. I mean, if you got a group of guys that want to get together once a month and go shooting and do tactical drills, how are you going to stop that? How are you going to, if it's not an advertised thing and they're not, it's a secret squirrel thing and they're not really talking about it outside their group, how would you even know? How would you be, and what harm is it doing if they're just out there doing shooting and they're LARPing, right? They're pretending to be soldiers and doing soldier drills and tactical drills. How would you, what harm is it doing, other than the fact that these politicians have fear that Americans, in the eventuality that they decide to do something a little more drastic, the politicians, these Americans would have the ability and the training to potentially push back.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. But the point is, training. From a realistic standpoint, training it improves, entices firearm safety, which we all need to do. We all need to recognize and follow that. Firearm safety is utmost important, regardless of your political position, because firearm safety keeps accidents from happening, prevents them happening. And it works to the advantage of, the average firearm owner. Nobody wants to have a firearm and have something bad happen with it. That's the last thing in the world, regardless of what political position you stand on.
Right.
That's the last thing in the world anybody wants to see happen. Training is the best tool we have to prevent that from happening. Education is far better than the legislation.
Right.
Second Amendment or anything else of that.
That's why I've always wondered. Yeah, I always wondered.
Get the controlling party wants to do it. Wants to do the whole thing on their own way.
Right. Well, and that's why I've always wondered, why would you want to remove training, which is one of the biggest safety aspects of firearms? The training, which would make people safer. You would have less instances of negligent discharges or people doing stupid things with guns. I mean, why wouldn't you want that training? Why wouldn't, if anything, why aren't you mandating the training? If you're all about mandates and gun mandates, why wouldn't that be one of the things that you do? Not just a basic course, but ongoing courses. I mean, not that I'm a fan of mandated anything, but yeah, you're right. The training goes a long way to making people safer, making them more proficient with their firearms. But I think that's the fear. They don't necessarily want people to be proficient with firearms as a means and an ability to be able to defend themselves. And maybe that speaks to the larger picture of their overall agenda or their overall philosophy that, we just need to be told what to do, and we need to toe the line or else.
Well, I think once again, you hit the nail on the head. The fact that they're trying to destroy the Second Amendment, and then they won't come out and actually say the words, but you know damn well that's exactly that's their end game. And the loony left doesn't care about safety. They don't. Matter of fact, I think they want to see more problems happen. I think between the whole revolving door justice system we have with they catch them today and let them go tomorrow, put them back on the streets so they can go out and commit more crimes. More chaos, more confusion, more division. This is part of their. I think this is definitely part of their plan.
Yeah.
And as crazy as they are, they don't care. They just burn the whole thing to the ground and give an inch. And I think just people like Gifford, they have the right idea. Walk away, turn your back on them, call them out for what they are. Call them out publicly for what they are, and eventually they will destroy themselves.
Right,
they will be destroyed by those who definitely see what.
Yeah, you've said Gifford a couple times. It's Tulsi Gabbard, not Gifford. Gifford's the gal that runs the
Gabbard,
she's the one that runs the gun control organization. So, yeah. Well, Fred, I appreciate your thoughts on this. Thank you for.
My bad.
No problem. Thanks for sounding off today. We appreciate you being part of it. Look forward to talking to you again next week. I hope you have a great weekend, my friend. All right, that brings us up to the next break. We got to go. We're going to be back with more. Up next, we're going to talk about the 97%. What is that? Well, you heard about the 3%ers, right? I mean, those are the people who will stand. Well, there's an organization out called the 97%. They say that they're a pro-gun organization, but are they really? Are they really? We'll be back with more of the Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Dukes Show.
Okay. Good call from Fred this morning. Good call from Fred. I like it. Teresa says that she needs Tulsi Gabbard's view on Lahaina and Maui. I don't know if I've ever heard her. I wonder if she has made a statement or said anything about that. Tulsi. Let me see what she says there. Oh, she has made several comments here on the fire. I can't watch them during the break because I don't want to, but let me post that up there for you, Teresa. There's one of her responses. And, she was on the Joe Rogan Experience talking about the Maui fires apparently as well. Okay. All right. So, Tulsi Gabbard on the Joe Rogan Experience talking about the Maui wildfires. So there you go. Brian just said, they just killed my comment about the trading of one thing for another. It's against community standards. They said, clearly they don't understand the community. And his comment was, I'll trade you 1522 for 300 Win Mag. I mean, come on, Facebook. That's just ridiculous. It's obviously not an offer for a real trade. It's a discussion of the AIs are smart and stupid at the same time. He was obviously not offering an offer. It was hyperbole in the moment. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't know. They probably demonetize and hide this whole show now that I said that out loud and highlighted it. But it's not a real offer to trade anything. He was talking and using it as a for example kind of thing. So stupid. And of course, good luck getting any of that stuff appealed. It's their platform. They can do what they want with it. They're a private company. They don't have to honor our free speech. It is what it is. It has become the de facto town square in a lot of ways, so it's very frustrating, but it is their right to do it. But until some other alternative comes along, what are you going to do? I don't know. I am broadcasting on Twitch right now. I'm broadcasting on Twitch. I'm broadcasting on YouTube. So we could always go over there. I talked about adding Rumble to the mix, but do I split the show 4 different ways? And now you got, that never works. I'm trying to build the viewership of the show, not fracture it even more. Anyway, one of those things. Yeah, go watch those 2 videos, Teresa, and tell me what you think. Donna thinks I should be on Rumble. Well, maybe. I've got the account set up. I've got everything ready. I put it all together. And then I did some studying and listened to some people who are kind of experts on the whole streaming and the multicasting and everything else. And they said, don't spread yourself too thin. I get the most viewers every day are on Facebook by a significant margin. Right now, there's 32 people on Facebook and 8 people on YouTube. So it's obviously the de facto viewing platform for this show. So do I pitch it to the wind and go to Rumble? Or do I hope that we can get more people engaged? I don't know. Or do I add Rumble? Which I just don't even know. All right, we're going to continue. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the stuff. Willie Waffle's coming up in the next segment. Let's go. Let's do this thing. We can't but help but do this thing right now.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yep. No attack guns. No murder guns, all protection guns. It's all I've ever owned. Just protection guns. None of those attack guns. Or assault penguins. I do not have an assault penguin. If you're listening, ATF, I do not own an assault penguin. Okay? I'm saying that right now. For the record. I used to have an assault penguin, but I lost it in a boating accident. All right, let's continue here. We got one final segment before we jump into Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com. There's a group out there that likes to portray itself as something of the middle ground. They say that they are gun owners and they are gun supporters and Second Amendment supporters. But they say that most gun owners favor at least some degree of common sense gun control and that's why they exist. They call themselves the 97%, which is a cutesy little nod at the whole 3% movement. The 3% movement's been around for years. Of course, that is a reference to the Revolutionary War, where they said, the 3% comes from the number of people who actually fought for the Americans, for the new country on the American side, that basically it was 3% for the country, 3% against the country, and a bunch of ambivalent people in the middle who were just waiting to see where the dust would settle. But that's where the 3% thing came out. But the 97% is obviously where the other 97% of gun owners who are rational and reasonable and believe in common sense kind of thing. But are they really pro-gun as they say they are? They're pro-gun, but they're pro-gun. They're pro-common sense gun. It seems like when there is some kind of story that comes out and the anti-gun media decides to come out and they need to have the other side, right? The quote-unquote pro-gun side, 97% seems to get quoted a lot in that regard. But is it true? And that was a question that the Gun Writer, which is the Second Amendment Foundation's investigative journalism project, decided to ask. And writer Lee Williams did a little digging into the group. And here is what he found out. 97%'s executive director, Olivia Troy, said during a recent appearance on ABC's The View that her group's mission is to, quote, bring gun owners into the conversation and bring them to the table in order to work on reducing gun deaths happening across the country while including them in the solutions, unquote. Oh, that sounds so good. That sounds so parsed and well, all we really want to do is reduce gun deaths across the country and include gun owners in that conversation. Except you're not really listening to gun owners, but that's the thing. Anyway, the surprising thing is Olivia Troy was unwilling to bring one particular gun owner into the conversation or to the table. She declined an interview with Lee Williams of the Second Amendment Foundation. She didn't want to talk about it when he wrote this story. Despite Troy's attempts to stake out a moderate and centrist position, an investigation by the SAF's Investigative Journalism Project found that the 97% is nothing more than a run-of-the-mill anti-gun group, albeit one with better messaging and PR. They've got that down pat. Some of the findings from the investigation include that 97% has supported an assault weapons ban, a standard capacity magazine ban, a bump stock ban. They've supported expanding red flag laws. They've supported permits to carry firearms. They've supported permits to purchase firearms. They've supported permits to even possess firearms. They've also supported the loss of Second Amendment rights upon conviction of a violent misdemeanor, not a felony, but a misdemeanor. You get into a bar fight, done. They supported mandatory storage laws, which would lead to mandatory home inspections by police. They supported mandatory background checks without acknowledging that they would lead to mandatory firearm registration and creation of a national registry. They claim that the Second Amendment is overprotected. They claim that rapid-fire guns, quote-unquote, are not used for hunting or home defense, but they won't define what the term rapid-fire guns means. They claim that popular semi-automatic firearms are weapons of war. They claim that constitutional carry results in increased homicides rates, which you know. And their advisory board is stocked with radical anti-gun extremists, including a former president of the Brady campaign. So remember, don't go out there and be thinking that just because they say that they're pro-gun, this goes back to what we're talking about with Gabbard here just a minute ago. Just because they say they're pro, look at the they can talk the talk all they want, but what does their walk say? And the 97% says, no bueno. No bueno is what that says right there. Where did I lose the story? I had a story. Oh, here it is right here. This is the Tom Knighton story over at Bearing Arms. Anti-gunners say the darndest things because, they're just so wrong all the time. The K through 12 shooting database, which is a Twitter account, an X account, tweeted this example of anti-gunners saying the darndest things. And they have a map in this thing. And it's a map from Henderson, Kentucky. It's like a Google map with a driving, with a driving thing, blue line where you drive from one to the other. And they have a map that shows the Midwest, and it shows from Henderson, Kentucky up to Chicago, Illinois, 5 hours, 31 minutes. That's the image. And it says a Chicago high school student was arrested after a Glock 21 pistol was found in his locker. The gun was stolen in the small town of Henderson, Kentucky, 300 miles away. Chicago's restrictive gun laws are undermined by the ease of obtaining firearms from other states. You cannot. The ease of obtaining firearms from other states? It was a stolen gun. I mean, what, did Kentucky make it legal now to go steal guns? Of course, the internet lost their mind. The FPC, the Firearms Policy Coalition, tweeted back, if only stealing guns was illegal. Damn. 2A History said, so you're what, wanting to ban people from traveling? Because that's what you're saying. Criminals can move stolen goods from state A to state B. We must stop people from traveling between states to stop that? Good luck in court with that. Another Destrier, another Twitter member says, gun stolen equals a crime. Stolen gun transported across state lines, a crime. Stolen gun given or sold to a minor, a crime. Gun taken into a gun-free zone, a crime. But more laws will stop the criminal behavior. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Oh man, I overran the time there. All right, we're gonna have to get this going on. We got one line on hold. This is some of the comments on this thing. So this kid bought a Glock in Kentucky and had it shipped to Florida. The kid bought a Glock in Kentucky, had it shipped to an FFL in Chicago, then showed his FOID card when he came in for the NICS check. Really? That's what happened? You think that's what? Oh, the stupid is strong with this one right here. All right, let's go over to the phones real quick. We'll take this call off the air because we got Willie coming up here in a minute. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Randy in Fairbanks.
Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah. As you were talking about Tulsi Gabbard, I must admit I didn't know anything about her, so I've been reading the Wikipedia article about her. But one thing I found on a different site that's kind of a deal killer for me is that it says here that from a May 17th, 2019 article that she voted for the Equality Act in the House of the federal government there. H.R. 5 passed the House by a vote of 236 to 173, the bill. Anyway, that's the LGBT anti-discrimination law, and that's just a deal killer for me. I mean, if it helped Trump win where he wouldn't win without her, that would be okay, but I'd rather somebody else, even though she's got some good points, but she'd have to change completely on this Equality Act thing for me to ever support someone like that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate you sounding off. I mean, again, this was more of a question about her conversion on the Second Amendment, but I'm sure you'll probably find some views that you disagree with her on, for sure. Just like, you probably will find views you disagree with almost any politician on. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about her Second Amendment conversion, though? Do you think it's real, or do you think it's phony?
She sounds good there. I mean, anybody, you give. I mean, I'm forgetting his name. The famous black economist who used to be a kind of a socialist.
Thomas Sowell.
Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
I'd vote for him for president any day of the week, but way back when in his youth, he was socialist and everything, but he had a complete conversion, and he's a fantastic guy, the best economist in America. She'd have to do a conversion on some other things for me to get behind her, though.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, Randy, for sounding off this morning. I appreciate your thoughts on that. Thanks for calling in. All right. that brings us over to back to the comments section here. Timothy says, Rumble is my main. See if Dan Bongino will interview me? Oh, wow. Good luck with that. Again, what do they care? My dad says we should add Rumble. He said we should add Rumble. Terry likes Facebook because we can comment back and forth with each other. I've actually never participated in a Rumble stream, so I don't know. I'm assuming that, like YouTube, you can comment back and forth to each other on YouTube. You could see that. Mike says that Facebook is easier than YouTube. Common sense. You keep using that word. Yeah, it's amazing they call it common. It's so rare. Timothy says, why does the Second Amendment get treated like the stepchild of amendments? Because it's the most inconvenient one for the government. That's why. Because it is the thing that has allowed us to remain as free as we are. Because it is the implicit threat against governmental overreach. The implied. It's not an overt. We're not in the streets marching, waving our rifles over our head. But they know if they push them too far, that people will just not comply. And if they try and send jackbooted troops onto that, it won't end well. Yes. Teresa says, this being Good Friday, it's noteworthy that Christ said before he went to Gethsemane, sell your cloak in order to get a defensive weapon. Sell your cloak to buy a sword. Absolutely. Charlie says, if Chicago's problem is the availability of guns in other communities, then why aren't those communities having problems? Mic drop moment. Brian says he thinks that Tulsi Gabbard's vote on that equality thing that he was talking about, that may have been the beginning of her road to Damascus, in his opinion. And it very well could be. She could have been forced into it and then disillusioned to say, could you imagine if Trump chose RFK? Ooh, Thomas Soul. Oh, me interview Dan is what Timothy said. Not him interview B, but me interview Dan. Well, it would be. I could reach out and try. We could try. But again, we don't do a lot of national stuff here unless it's firearms related. Okay, we got to go. We got to jump back into this. Willie's on the line. We got to run the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do it. Well, hi. It's the weekend, and I'm excited about it. Can't wait. It would only be better if it was like a 3 or 4 or 5 day weekend at this point. Oh, who am I kidding? I'd rather just take the whole week off. But you know what? We can't do that. But we are looking forward to Saturday. Today's Friday. And that means Willie Waffle joins us to discuss the weekend movies and so much more. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I did not win the lottery this week, so it's only a 2-day weekend. And, just going to have to make the best of it.
A friend of mine once said to me, because I think it was when I was deciding to try and move down from Fairbanks down here to the South Central area. And I was vacillating like, oh, do I want to do it or not? It's hard when you've lived in place basically your whole life and then you're going to move and it's like, oh. And he said, let me ask you a question. If you had $1 million that somebody just handed to you cash tomorrow, what would you do? And I'm like, oh, that's easy. I'd go. He said, would you stay or would you go? And I'm like, I'd go. He goes, there's your answer. And I've kind of lived by that for a while now. Really, if the only answer is, yeah, okay, I got it. I can do that. I definitely would love to win the lottery. I'd still do the show, but there'd be a lot of other things that would not be bothering my days. Let's put it that way.
The funniest thing I ever heard about the guy who's going to keep working after he wins the lottery. I remember this vividly a few years ago. A friend of mine says, yeah, everyone says they're going to work after they win the lottery until that first Friday afternoon when your boss says, John, I need you to come in tomorrow afternoon. You're like, no, I don't.
They would just have to know that up front, that, hey, I won the lottery and I'm here on my severance, not on yours, kind of thing, you know.
That's right.
All right, well, let's dive into the the headlines. Let's get the dark, deeper stuff out first, and then you can have your head. But I do want to touch on this briefly, only because my own daughters came and talked to me about this, which I had no idea what was going on. But Nickelodeon, not the friendly kidland that everybody portrayed it to be 15, 20 years ago. Now things are coming out that there was definitely a dark side of kids' TV, and that's Quiet on the Set.
Yeah, and then this is a four-part series that aired on Investigation Discovery. It aired on Max, the streaming channel Max, and it really kind of put together a lot of the stories that had been floating around for years about the unhealthy environment that existed on the Nickelodeon sets for all these teen and tween shows that were very, very, very popular. A lot of it centered around the creator, Dan Schneider, who, people who are longtime television fans might remember. He was one of the stars of Head of the Class. Matter of fact, one of his co-stars, Brian Robbins, became a big executive at Nickelodeon. And Dan Schneider really became the guy who created all the big shows. And the rumors had gone around that he was just kind of creepy and kind of not somebody you wanted to be around. And he wasn't nice to people. And he was kind of a sexist to the females who worked on the set. And it brought in all these stories. And the biggest revelation was that, there was not, and told his story in one of the episodes. So this has gotten tons of press, tons of attention. And because of this, there's going to be another episode that wasn't planned originally. It's going to air on April 7th. It'll be on Investigation Discovery and Max, just like the originals ones were. It's going to be moderated by Soledad O'Brien, and it's going to feature interviews with a lot of the child stars, including Drake Bell, talking about some of the things that they talked about on the series. What has happened since then? How has this changed? How has this brought attention to issues that are really important to them? And I think that's going to be I think it's going to be very sad.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's just going to be a summary of a lot of pain that these kids held inside for years and years and years. And I think there's already rumblings that there's going to be a follow-up to this series that's going to focus on the Disney Channel shows.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's it's horrific, and I can't watch this stuff, quite honestly, just because it infuriates me and it depresses me that this is the way the world is. Although I know this is the way the world is, but it's shocking, especially for kids. Like I said, my daughters came and talked to me because they watched a lot of these shows when they were growing up, and they're a little traumatized by some of the things that happened to people that they thought were always happy-go-lucky, and they're sad about it. And I could see that. So anyway, all right. So we'll see when that comes out, April the 7th. What else we got? Give me something happier.
Well, I'm not gonna say happier, but I think more in the entertainment realm. The big HBO series Euphoria, that stars Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney, and really launched them and helped make them really big stars. The episodes have been kind of languishing. They've been trying to get together a third season, but the writers' strike got in the way. One of the stars of the show died. There's just a lot of turmoil going on. And the decision was made that they're going to delay the season, that they were originally going to try to have it come out next year in 2025. But they've realized they can't. First of all, these stars are in great demand and they want to go do other things. And they can't sit around waiting for you to write scripts, and they can't sit around and wait for you to come up with ideas. So the decision was made. We're going to let them kind of go, let them sign on for some other projects while they get it together, and they think of a way to keep the series going. The series really focused in on them as teenage stars, as high schoolers who were dealing with addiction and recovery. And by the time they get around to season 3, all these people are going to be too old to be believable as high schoolers.
Right.
So the theory is that they're going to do a flash forward. They're going to jump forward a few years in the series when they bring the season back. If they bring it back, The reason they announced the delay is because there was also rumors going on that this show is just done, that they can't get it together. They are not going to be able to get all these people together. They are not going to be able to have all these ideas, and maybe it's just over.
Which again, going back to my previous statement about the last topic, I don't really want to watch a television show about teenagers in high school struggling with drug addiction and going through rehab. I mean, that just doesn't sound like fun entertainment to me. Now, some people, that might be their cup of tea. But again, okay, that's all I can say. There's much better things for me to spend my time on than that. But you know what? I hope I hope it all works out in the end for them. I will go watch a new dinosaur movie, though. I will
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
where I wanted to go.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Jurassic Johansson, people. You thought they were done with the Jurassic World? You thought they were done with the dinosaurs running around the planet? Au contraire, my friends. Where there is money, there is always a new idea. And the new idea that is thrown out there right now is that Scarlett Johansson, yes, the Scarlett Johansson, is in talks to take over the Jurassic World franchise, and that they're going to put it on the fast track, that they're going to have the next Jurassic World movie come out July 2nd, 2025.
Ooh.
They're going to sign her up. They got a script ready to go, and they're going to jump into production. They are not messing around.
Yeah, that's fast. To have it out in 14, 15 months.
Massive.
That's huge. That's crazy.
Well, and especially for a movie that's going to be very heavy in special effects, that's going to be very heavy in the action. I mean, it's a difficult shoot, and you almost have to have Scarlett Johansson do it because she's got a lot of experience with these things. She can adjust to it very, very well, given her history of all the Avengers movies and other movies that she's done. She could step right in. She can understand the terminology and what is expected of her. And she's just a major star. I mean,
Right,
you know
right.
what? I have not been excited about the Jurassic World movies until I heard this. I said, I might be in for that.
I did enjoy the Chris Pratt versions. I did enjoy that. So
They were fine.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
fine. They were good entertainment. That's all I was looking for. I wasn't looking for Citizen Kane, so good for her. I hope it happens. I'd like to see it. I just watched a movie that somehow I missed back in the day. I just watched Scarlett Johansson in Ghost in the Shell. Have you ever watched that?
I did. I wasn't as big of a fan of that.
Well, I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that. So I watched.
No, I do. Yeah.
I watched the Ghost in the Shell anime movie many years ago. It's a very famous anime movie. There's been lots of talk about how parts of it were stolen for the Matrix and blah blah blah. I mean, but it's a well-known movie, and I thought they really did a great job transitioning that to real life. And I thought Scarlett Johansson did a great job. I really enjoyed it. For folks who haven't watched that and you like kind of a good slash 'em up action flick, it's a good one. Ghost in the Shell. I think it was on Netflix. But anyway, I'd like to see Scarlett Johansson in Jurassic Park. That would be fun as well. All right, final story. How much time we got? We have to do it quickly. Rebel Wilson.
Okay.
And one of my least favorite people on the planet, Sacha Baron Cohen. You know him as Ali G and what's the Borat.
Borat.
I've just never found the guy that entertaining, especially when he pulls pranks on people. I just don't find that funny, quite honestly. I sound like an old man. Damn. But it's just not that entertaining. But they apparently have gone to war. Give it to me quickly here.
Yep, you're going to hate Sacha Baron Cohen even more. So Rebel Wilson has her new autobiography coming out on April 2nd, and she had been teasing that there's one chapter in there about the biggest blank that she's dealt with in Hollywood, and she finally revealed it's Sacha Baron Cohen, and she's going to talk about all these horrible things that happened when they were making the movie together, Brothers Grimsby. She alleges that he hounded her about going naked in the film, and asked her to do something to him that was very untoward and would have been a horrible thing to see in the movie, but he thought it was funny. Just really, and the way he berated her and treated her, and she's just outing him. And she said, as soon as he heard the book was coming out, and as soon as he heard I was talking about this, he started getting his PR team together and his lawyers together. He's been threatening me if I even release the book. Oh, this is gonna be wild.
Good. I hope I'm Burns. I mean, I hope, whatever. He's not a very nice person, in my opinion. All right, let's move over to the streams and the movies. We got about 3 minutes here. We got two, Godzilla and Kong. the new Empire, and the Baxters. So your choice, dealer's choice. Hit me with it.
All right. Well, we'll go with Godzilla Kong first because that's what we really want to see.
Yeah.
We want to see in the last movie, Godzilla and King Kong went mano y mano. They beat the living daylights out of each other. And now here we are in the sequel, and the people who run the Monarch Corporation are trying to do everything they can to keep these two apart. But Kong has gone deeper into the underworld than we've ever been before. He's trying to find others like him. And what he finds is a force that wants to take over the planet. And only Godzilla can team up with him to save humanity.
I remember when I said I was a nerd, I never got into the Godzilla and Kong thing. Never, ever. I was just like, nope, I don't even care. I saw the trailer for it the other day, and one of my daughters was like, oh, that's going to be so good. And I'm like, oh, you'll love that, I'm sure. I will never watch that. What do you think? Give me the rundown here quickly.
I'm at like 1.5 waffles. I mean, listen, the action scenes are wild. The CGI that they use to bring these titans to life looks amazing and gives them personalities in ways that you wouldn't expect. But everything else is just junk. The story's junk. The setup is junk. I mean, all the actors in this movie, they're just cashing in. They're like, I don't even care about the script. I just want some money. I'm at 1.5 waffles. It's not a great movie, but it has its entertaining moments.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it'll be. I mean, the last Godzilla movie won an Oscar for the best effects. Okay,
because the effects are really cool.
Yeah, they did a good job. All right, let's move over to the Baxters. Touched by an Angel. Roma Downey is in this deal. Give me the quick rundown here.
Yep, 10-episode series that's on Amazon Prime. You can watch all the episodes right now. And it's about her family, Roma Downey being the matriarch, and the struggles that they go through and how they try to rely on their faith and their belief in God to help guide them through. And the most of the season is going to be focused in on her daughter, who has discovered that her husband is cheating on her. And the husband wants a divorce, and she says no. And we have to see, how is this going to play out? And I think just that twist alone is what had me interested. At least it's different, right? Because let's face it, every single person who just heard me say that said, if my husband or my wife was cheating on me, I'd divorce him right now. I wouldn't fight to save that marriage. And I think, that's going to be what draws you in. And yes, they're very open about how this is a very faith-based series, okay? There's no hiding it, man. They got Bible verses opening up the episode, okay? So you're going to have that. But I think that you have some interesting storytelling. Maybe some of the acting's a little stiff. I mean, but I've always liked Roma Downey. I think she's a good, steady force in a series. I'm at 2.5 waffles. I'm in.
Well, and we know that faith-based stuff does well, surprisingly, to a lot of people. But sometimes we want just a little bit of that clean, wholesome, good wins in the end kind of stuff. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Next week, my friend, anything sticking up? Thank you, my folks, for sticking in the Michael Duke Show.
It will be the first Omen.
The first. Okay, my wife will be excited for that. All right, we're going to be back on Monday. Jamie Allard will be joining us, and maybe somebody else. We'll see you then. Have a great day. Weekend too, by the way. I mean, you got to like Roma Downey. I mean, she was never shy about her faith and how that played into the whole touch by an angel. Michael Landon wasn't either. And I think that's really what they believed. And I think that's what really made that series the phenomenon that it was. And she's kind of dropped off the face of the earth since then. So it's good to see her come back and play to her strengths, I guess.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, Roma Downey is in the position where she can do what she wants to. Not only has she had some success, but her husband is the guy who came up with Survivor, and he's very well off financially. I've actually met both of them when they've been out promoting projects that they've been working on. And, they have dedicated a lot of their efforts to faith-based entertainment. And I think that's why it comes off as genuine here. I just don't think this is a bunch of people acting. I honestly believe Roma Downey believes this because I know she does. And I think that brings a little bit of a reality to the series that would be entertaining. Entertaining is not the right word. I think is the draw. the
Right,
draw
right,
that these
right.
are people who are very honest about this, that they're not using it to get your money, that they're really they have that foundation and they believe in it.
Well, I look forward to seeing it. I think that is. Excuse me. I think that is a fantastic opportunity to see something that people really want to see. We should see more of that faith-based stuff. All right. Your homework was mile 22, which you didn't get to, but maybe.
The dog ate my homework. The dog ate my homework.
Exactly.
Okay?
The dog ate my iPad. I couldn't watch it. I'm so sorry.
I couldn't watch it.
Maybe next week, maybe the week after. I mean, it's no hurry for sure. I am looking forward to the new. I saw the trailer the other day for the new John Krakowski and Emily Blunt, the Quiet Place Day One.
Yeah,
the new Quiet Place
Day One.
Oh man, that looks intense. I can't wait to hear more about that. And so, anything else you're looking forward to in the next coming weeks here?
Oh man, there were some trailers that I saw tonight actually, yesterday when I was watching King Kong, and that was the one that really jumped out, was Quiet Place Day One. It looks really cool. I think Imaginary Friends, the If movie with John Krasinski's in that, Steve Carell and Ryan Reynolds. I think that one could be very interesting. I think that's really where I am. I think kind of that early part of the summer season is when you really get your big summer movies.
And of course, everybody's waiting for Deadpool. I mean, that might be the superhero movies that saves us all. I don't know. All right, Willie, thanks so much for coming on board. Folks, we got to go. Again, Jamie Allard with us on Monday. We will see you then. Have a great weekend.